What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering the salaries page in Madden 23 with the new rollover system, and also just a quick rundown of what to look for when you are in your own franchise trying to make sense of all of the numbers they give you up top. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right to it. First, if you don't know where this salaries page is to find all of this good information, you want to go down to your roster and you want to go down to team salaries. Your team salaries is going to bring you to this page here, and you just see a whole bunch of numbers. And I just decided it would be a good idea to maybe do a rundown of how this all works, because I, for one, know how to work it and what to expect, but that's not the same for everybody. Not everybody pays attention to this, and maybe you would if you knew more about it and you just never really went about doing it. I'm hoping that I can help you know a little bit more and also learn more about this rollover cap that's going to be coming to Madden 23 that you can also utilize in your own franchises. The first thing we're going to cover is just all of the numbers up top, and I'll explain each one of them to you, and then we'll go in a little bit more detail. So first, you're looking, of course, at the 2022 cap, which is in the top left corner. You can see by that little fancy rectangle I have around there, and it's going to say that your 2022 cap is $218 million. Now, this is how much you can spend on your players in the given year. If you drop down right below that to the 2022 salaries, this is going to tell you how much you are spending right now on your player salaries. Now, this is not including any penalty, any rookie reserve, anything like that. This is just the 53 you have on your active roster, what you are spending on their contracts. And I just mentioned the cap penalty. And what I mean by that is this number here, the 2022 cap penalty. This is how much dead money, essentially. You hear that word thrown around a lot when you're watching, free agency and the draft, and teams trying to make trades, that dead money or cap penalty. And this is when you trade or cut a player that still has guaranteed money in their contract that you decided to let go early. And what that means is whatever money is left over is going to get divvied up. Usually in Madden, it's just 2 years. So you will see it for this season and then next season. The only thing I'm not a fan of this year is they don't show you the future cap penalty. Like last year, they would tell you exactly how much you had coming up. So once 2022 is over, they would have a spot for 2023 cap penalty to track how much of it you were going to have. Don't let this fool you and think you will not have it, because you will get 2023 cap penalty. Unfortunately, you might have to end up figuring that out yourself, or just leaving yourself some breathing room at the end of the season. And that brings us to the newest addition to the salaries page, and that is rollover from 21. You'll see the $1.75 million that is in there. And what that means is that there was $1.75 million not spent underneath the full cap room from a season ago, and then because the team saved that money, they get to spend it in this one. And that leftover money is going to get added to your adjusted cap. As you see here, it went from 218 way over on the left top to 220. Now, of course, it's technically 219.75, but I don't think Madden has enough character spaces in there, so they rounded it up to 220. I wish they would actually undershoot rather than overshoot of how much cap room you have. Obviously, it'll play itself out, but technically you only have 219.75 million to play with because of the adjusted cap. Now, this number will change. Now, if your rollover from 22 after this season is, say, the full 22 million that we have available, your adjusted cap is going to go up 22 million more than what the league allotted amount is, which can be really helpful and come in to play some big dividends for you if you are trying to manage your players. And this number down here, the 2022 total spending, that is going to take your rollover, your salary spent, and your cap penalty into play, and it is going to give you a solid number, which at this point is 198 million of 220 is spent, which leaves you with this number here under the cap space of $21.7 million. Now, this is how much I have to work with right now. If I go out and sign a free agent, I'm going to see that number in there that allows me to use that much towards my next player, but it's only for the current year. This number is going to change after the season ends. And I'll show you what I mean by that after we finish explaining this. I'm going to sim to the end of the season, and I'm going to show you exactly how it changes from year to year. And then the final spot here is the 2023 rookie reserve. You see there, it says 8.43 million. What this is telling you is that this amount of money is going to be taken out of your 2023 cap room to make room for your rookies. Now you can sort of put this in your cap space now and sort of take it out ahead of time, but you really want to just hold on to it until the end of the season, because this could change. Now this number is based off of what Madden thinks we're going to finish, but if say this team does really well and ends up with a very late pick, that number is going to go down, and vice versa if you have a very bad year. It's also the value of the pick. So you could stay at 8.4, you could go up to 10 million, you could go down to maybe 7.8. So maybe just hold on to that and know that you're going to have always about 7 to 10 million taken off of your cap room during the offseason to account for the rookies coming in after your draft. Now that we have a general understanding of what is up top, now I'm going to show you what you can look at on your players individually to find out how you can affect that. Now I'm going to have you look at Justin Jefferson down here because we're going to use him as an example. He has 2 years remaining on his contract, 13.1 in total contract, and 11.1 in signing bonus. Now signing bonus is another term for guaranteed money in Madden. Again, there's differences in what you hear in real life as compared to what you see in Madden. These have been what they've called it for years, and they just never really updated. But this is basically your dead money if you cut him, right? So if you were to cut Justin Jefferson today, you would save yourself $500,000, but you are going to get hit with a 6.76 million cap penalty. Now this 6.76 million is how much he has left that you owe him, regardless if you cut him right now or next year or next week. And it will break it down. It'll do maybe a half or 55-60% this year, and the final year it'll be, you know, maybe the leftover 4 million, leftover 4.5 million, but it will be on your penalty that affects your money. And here, I'll show you what happens if we were to, let's say, cut him. So I just cut Justin Jefferson. That was a very weird feeling, might I add. Me being a Vikings fan, I just cut my favorite player on the team. Anyway, this is all for informational purposes. Now you can see that my cap penalty rose by 3 and some change, which means that there's gonna be another chunk like that added to my cap penalty for next year, right? My cap space ended up going down. I had 21.7, I now have 21.3. So it was actually a horrible move for me to cut Justin Jefferson because I had all of that bonus money that you see here still available on him. And that's something that you have to look out for when you are deciding who to cut, who to trade, is what is it going to cost me to do this? And I don't think enough guys do. One thing you can do to see some players that might be good to cut is by playing with the savings and penalty areas here. You can sort them if you would like to see who's costing you the least compared to who's costing you the most. Go figure, it's Kirk Cousins. Same with the penalty. Now, if you are in a situation where your cap is very important to you, I would highly recommend you try not to cut guys like Harrison Smith here, who has 27.4 million in penalty that's going to hit your roster if you cut him right now. It's not a good look. And you're gonna wanna stick to guys like Josh Metellus and Ben Ellefson instead, where you can free up money, but you're not taking any penalty, which is not gonna put your team in a bad situation. Now you could say, well, I'm getting rid of this contract this year, but guess what? If you were to cut guys like Harrison Smith and Adam Thielen right now, yeah, that contract amount is gonna be off of your total, but that cap penalty is going to be major and could end up costing you a chance of signing a free agent, making a re-sign next season. It plays an important factor, and I think this is one of the parts that a lot of people overlook because, well, it's just a video game. I'm just gonna do what I want. And while you can do that, if you really don't care, go ahead. But if you are like me and you want to be as realistic as possible and you want to make good decisions for your team, you got to pay attention to the savings and penalty area of your salaries page and know what it is that you're talking about when it comes to that top part there and all those numbers. So that was pretty much all the talking I had to do for this portion. What I'm going to do now is we're going to sim to the end of the season. We're going to get to the 2023 salary year, and I'm going to show you the difference between the cap going up, the cap penalty moving away, and the cap space changing. Now, when we go away from 22, you're going to see that 25.2 million just vanish because that cap penalty is only for 2022. And whatever I just did with cutting Jefferson and all that stuff, that's going to show in the cap penalty and the cap space once we, move over. So let's go ahead and let's sim to the off season. Okay, so we are in the off season, and now you can see here, you're looking at the top right there, we are now in 2023. So the cap has gone up significantly. It went up, what is that, 25 million in one off season, which is pretty standard for the NFL. So now your cap is 243. Or because I did nothing in 2022, all of that money that I had, that 21.3 for the most part, aside from some of those cuts I made, is now on for a rollover, which means that my actual adjusted cap is now $264 million that I can spend. Pretty awesome, right? You can also see here that my 2023 cap penalty did come through as 446, and that is just a reminder that even though you can't see the cap penalty on the screen for the future year, it is still there, and it will change and it will add to you. And you can see for me cutting Justin Jefferson, I added $4.5 million to my cap penalty this year, and I ate the other portion of that on the previous year. And then I also want you to look at the rookie reserve. We ended up going 2-15 in this season. Horrible way for my Vikings to go down. But anyway, we went from 8.4 million all the way up to 13.9 for rookie reserve. I did no trades. It is literally just the picks the Vikings have. We almost doubled our rookie reserve because of how high of a draft pick we have. Now that's great, but it's not going to be that easy to always guess what your rookie reserve is going to be. That's why be mindful, but wait till the offseason until you can actually see your number and it's not going to change on you anymore to figure out exactly what you are going to end up having. Now, one other thing that you have to keep in mind here when you're looking at your cap space of 41.7 is that is not including the rookie reserve right here. So you have to take away that 14 million off of your cap space. Otherwise, you're going to end up negative in cap room after the draft, which is going to put you in a very rough spot right away to start the season. So while it looks like we have 42 million to work with in cap space, in all reality, we have about 25 to work with, let's say safely, and that's cutting it down to the wire. So it's very important for you to pay attention to this. And then, the other thing too is you have to be careful when it comes to how much you're spending every year, because if you start building up your roster, like if I just go and spend all $264 million because that rollover is there, what happens when next year the cap, maybe it is 265, right? Maybe it actually goes up to that, the regular 2023 cap. But now I'm already up against the wall because I don't have anything to carry over. I spent every penny I had, which means now you're already putting yourself on a bad path. Now, of course, a lot of the time that's going to fix itself with re-signs and players retiring and trades that you do. But some people have a team that they really want to keep and they just want to add to. So you also have to be mindful of how much you're spending, because if you spend too much, you're gonna run out. Obviously, it's the same anywhere you look at it with money. If you spend too much, you're gonna run out. Okay, Captain Obvious. But what I'm trying to say is, just because you have the rollover cap does not mean you want to push it to the brink. Because then what happens when, 3 years from now, I've been pushing it to the brink and I want to re-sign Dalvin Cook because he's the best running back in the league, and I can't because I don't have any money. Another very useful tool with this salaries page is keeping an eye on contract length and remainder of years. You can see ahead of time what kind of players you're going to have to re-sign. Like if I sort this by years remaining 0, I know that all of these players are up for a contract this year. I have to decide if I want to sign them or not. And then you start to see the 1 years. Now these are guys that are going to be wanting to re-sign next year, and I'm going to have to re-sign Danielle Hunter and Ezra Cleveland, a younger lineman. I have to make a decision on Kirk Cousins next season. There's a lot of things that you can think of, like, wow, look at all these players I have to re-sign. I think I want to bring them all back. I'm going to have to make sure I have some pretty good scratch set aside for these guys, so maybe I can't sign those 3 really big free agents that I want to this season. And then also when you are doing re-signs, you don't want to put everybody to the same year. Don't do a bunch of 5-year contracts, because yeah, it might be all fine and dandy while those 5 years are going on, but then you're going to get hit like a freight train in that 5th year, and it's going to make it harder to build up underneath them because your cap's going to be stretched so far year after year after year. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Your cap penalty spent, or your cap spent, that it ends up being a very bad situation. So you always want to be mindful. You know, try to space this out a little bit. Obviously, don't shorten yourself out of a good player for a long-term contract if you know he's going to be there for the long term. But, you know, if you got a guy like, let's look at a guy like Amir Smith-Marset, right? Who knows what he's going to be at in 2 years? He's going to be 26 years old. Maybe he's a 75, 76 if you decide to work with him. Instead of giving him a 4-year deal because you like him and you want to keep him until he's 30, maybe give him a 2-year deal again. Because maybe you draft a guy in between there and you don't want to keep Smith-Marset after that. You know, those kind of decisions can be the difference in having a successful franchise and running out of fun in like 5 years because you just didn't pay attention to it well enough. But anyway, guys, that is all I had for this video. I really just wanted to do a quick rundown on the salaries and just get some information out to you guys so you guys can have a fun franchise. Now that Madden 23 is here, I've been looking at this franchise stuff and I'm telling you guys right now, you guys are going to have some fun this year if you haven't the last couple of years. I'm already giddy about getting our Madden 23 franchise started on this channel, and I do have a few more videos I'm going to be putting out here shortly going over some of the other things like how free agency works now along with re-signings, player tags, and just some of the other things that I think have changed and are going to make a difference in how guys play their franchise. So stick around, make sure you like, hit that subscribe button, turn that bell notification on so you know every time I upload one of these videos or a franchise video, and I'll see you guys next time.